makes this event so different is that there are 24 hours of ice racing. To kick off proceedings, the top competitors have to tackle a short hill climb at a neighbouring resort. It decides their positions on the starting grid for the real racing, but already differences were showing. Terje Ski from Norway must have wondered whether his journey was worthwhile. And French motor racing legend Henri Pescarolo gave some spectators more thrills than they'd bargained for. But the real action takes place day and night on a mile-long track carved out of the ice and normally used as a winter driving school. The whole weekend is all a bit of a jolly, attracting stars from all branches of motorsport who come here for the fun of it. From the world of rallying came French rally star Bruno Sabi and his great rival Yves Loubet, sharing their Lancia on this occasion.
Yeah, it's very good, very nice for training, you know. It's fantastic for training. And for me, I'm like a virgin on this.
But what is the technique of driving quickly on ice?
I don't know. My professor is Bruno Sabi, and he learned to me many things. He say, you do that here, you do that here. And when I arrive, my heart, boom, boom, and I try to make all that my teacher say to me.
Bringing up the rear in most races was Henri Pescarolo. Fresh from his Daytona 24-hour win in Florida, he was continuing to find his Ford a real handful.
That Ford RS 500 seems to be quite a good car for the rallycross, you know, but for such a race on the ice, it's too heavy, you know, compared to all the other cars here. The power is quite good, but the weight is so heavy that it's really difficult, you know.
Ice racing is taken very seriously in France, with works teams entering an ice racing championship. Many teams design their own very special cars. In most forms of motorsport, there are all sorts of rules and regulations, but in ice racing, anything goes. Take this Citroën AX, driven by Jean-Pierre Jarier. It's quite unlike any Citroën you've ever seen before. For a start, the engine's on the back seat. It's a 2.5-litre development from a Formula 2 racing engine, and the car's also got a racing gearbox to handle the 300 brake horsepower. And not only has it got four-wheel drive, it's also got four-wheel steering. Former French Formula 1 ace Jarier seemed to lap up the conditions. Hardly surprising, really, since his first job after leaving school was to teach here as an ice driving instructor. The key to success when racing on ice is to keep the power on constantly and adopt a smooth driving style. And as in rallying, left-foot braking was much in evidence. Four-wheel drive BMWs have won the last two Chamonix events in the hands of French ice racing supremos François Chauche and Jean-Pierre Malcher in their 325 iX. This is really marvellous. It's just what the organisers prayed for. It's now time for the night racing, and as darkness started to fall, we had even more snow. In fact, in the last few hours, we've had 2 or 3 inches. Now, racing on snow at night is difficult because of the glare from the lights, but when the stuff is falling out of the sky as well, then it does give the drivers something to think about. Whether day or night, each race lasts 30 minutes, and just to confuse everybody, the organisers vary the direction in which the cars go round the track. For poor old Henri Pescarolo, it was all far too much. He was causing much confusion as a mobile chicane as the leading cars lapped him. To add to the general chaos, the drivers have to change over halfway through each race. And so do their passengers, whose primary role appeared to be that of providing ballast. In fact, it was real pandemonium in the pits. Whether the spectators actually know what is going on is a moot point, but they seem to enjoy it and they turn up to brave the elements in their hordes. In fact, over 17,000 came to see this event, which is very much a part of French motorsport. It's been going since 1970. During the night, even more snow fell, requiring all the assembled snow-clearing resources of the Chamonix Town Council to maintain the track. So heavy were the falls of snow that there was danger of an avalanche, and the organisers cleared some of the spectator stands, although they didn't seem so concerned about the welfare of the drivers. Interspersed among the main races, there's the chance for other drivers in lesser vehicles to have a go. This is the two-wheel drive class, where there's a lot more physical contact. And don't expect any special treatment just because you're driving a Porsche. Back to four-wheel drive, but at a somewhat slower speed, as another class for off-road machines. It includes virtually anything from Mitsubishis and Suzukis to the odd Fiat Panda. If you wondered why these drivers can start, stop and drive round corners with little apparent difficulty, while the rest of us grind to a halt or crash into each other at the slightest sign of snow, well, this is the answer. These are studded tyres. 200 of these small studs are injected into the tyre at the factory. They're made of a special metal which is said to be nearly as hard as a diamond. They cut through the snow and pierce the ice, but such are the demands of ice racing that one 30-lap race can finish a set off. By the end of the second day's racing, in temperatures down to -15, it was clear that the drivers were becoming exhausted. Even among the professional classes, the cornering was becoming rather ragged. Some of the contenders, like Messrs Vincent and Ballas in what looked like a Lancia Integrale delivery van, didn't seem to know where they were going. And others, like young Monsieur Belmondo, son of film star Jean-Paul, seemed tempted to give up the ghost altogether. Once again, the Chamonix ice race was won by a BMW. This time, the M3 of French hill climb champion Marcel Tallers with Christian Debias. This was another oddball car with the engine in the middle and the gearbox in the back, but obviously just the thing for driving on ice.
Well, that's about it for this week. Before we go, however, let's just savour one more example of the sumptuous cars they have on offer here. This bright red monster is the 1937 V16 Cadillac. It was ordered, fittingly enough, by the son of a wealthy brick manufacturer in Switzerland who wanted nothing less than the biggest car in town. The V8s and V12s on offer from Hispano-Suiza at Bugatti just weren't big enough, so he went for the Cadillac. The bodywork is by that celebrated Parisian pair, Fighieri and Falaschi, installed, however, by Hartmann in Switzerland, and his nameplate is actually in the cockpit. And that's really all this car is, a huge engine, those big swooping wings, this relatively small cockpit. You had to have a car following along behind with the flunky and the suitcases. Well, next week we're at the first major motor show of the year in Geneva. We road test Mitsubishi's new offering in the executive class, the Sigma, and we pit the Range Rover against its new rivals, the revamped Mercedes G-Wagon and the Toyota Land Cruiser. So see you then. Until then, drive safely. Au revoir, mes amis.
Top Gear is repeated tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock.